A coding agent can write a confident summary, say the test's passed, and still be wrong. The weak point is simple. The worker also grants the work. In this video, I will show you a real completion gate inside mission control. We will run failing code outside the product, watch mission control block completion, submit a synthetic review, fix the code, and separate what the product enforces from what it does not yet capture. The operating rule is not complicated. A completion claim is not a verification receipt. For an empty input requirement, I want an executable check for empty input. For invalid data behavior, I want the response status and body. The evidence needs to come from something other than the sentence the agent wrote about itself. The public mission control repository is running at version 2.3.0 against a disposable local database. The task, agent, code fixture, and review notes are synthetic. Nothing here comes from a customer or a private operating system. A useful demo should be reproducible without leaking the real system it was learned from. Here is the task. A synthetic builder agent needs to ship a CSV export. The acceptance criteria are explicit. The happy path works. Empty input returns an empty result, and invalid rows produce a specific validation error. The board tracks the task through work, review, quality review, and done. The final state is not another label the worker can assign to itself. The target operating pattern separates four concerns. The worker produces an implementation. Executable checks produce evidence. A reviewer evaluates that evidence against the task. Then a state gate decides whether completion is allowed. Mission control currently enforces the last part. An Aegis approval record is required before the task route accepts done. Its runtime adapters do not yet emit structured test, diff, artifact, or browser receipts. The first implementation handles one normal row, so the happy path test passes. But the export reads the first row before checking whether any rows exist. Empty input raises an index error. A string also reaches code that expects a mapping, which raises an attribute error instead of the promised validation error. One green test does not erase two uncovered failure paths. Agent workflows often become unreliable at this point. The resolution can truthfully say that CSV export was added and the happy path test passed. Both statements are real. The problem is what the summary leaves out. For this synthetic demo, I compare the acceptance criteria with test output outside mission control. The product sees the task description, agent resolution, and review record. It does not ingest this test runner output as structured evidence. Now the task is placed in review, and the client tries to move it directly to done. The server returns HTTP 403. The response is explicit. Aegis approval is required to move the task to done. The boundary matters because removing a UI check or using another client does not bypass it. The server still refuses the state transition. The route checks the latest quality review for this task in workspace. It only accepts an approval where the reviewer is Aegis. A missing, rejected, or stale approval stops the request before the task update runs. The user interface also checks, but it is not the security boundary. Based on the external test output, I submit a synthetic rejection through the Quality Review API. Mission control moves the task back to in progress and stores the review notes as the current error message. The rejection is not a dead end. It tells the worker which cases remain uncovered. The product stores review status and notes here, not the test receipt itself. The retry loop is still useful. A weak system reruns the same agent and hopes. A better operating loop preserves the failed output, identifies the uncovered behavior, and changes the next attempt. In this demo package, the test output is preserved externally. Mission control preserves the rejection notes and current task state. Those are separate artifacts. The fix now handles empty input and validates every row. One distinction matters. The automatic Aegis scheduler can be model-driven. Its current prompt includes the task description and agent resolution prose, not structured runtime receipts. The model judgment is not deterministic. The state gate around the recorded judgment is deterministic. For higher risk work, integrate verified external evidence, or require a human review before approval.
Do not mistake an approval record for automatic test verification.
After the implementation changes, the exact same test command runs again. Happy path passes. Empty input passes. Invalid rows now raise the expected value error. 3 checks run and all 3 pass with exit code 0. Passing these cases does not prove every possible property of the exporter, but it covers the acceptance criteria defined for this small synthetic task. After checking the external test output, I submit an approved quality review through the API. Mission Control records the approval, advances the task to done, and a fresh read confirms the latest reviewer, review status, and task state. The completion state now has a traceable review reason. This proves server-enforced review state. It does not prove that Mission Control automatically verified the tests. Back on the board, the task sits in Done with the Aegis marker. Inside Mission Control, the durable records are the rejection notes, approval record, and task state. The failing and passing test outputs live in the external demo receipt. Anyone asking why this task closed should inspect both. Keeping that boundary visible prevents an approval record from being mistaken for a complete proof bundle. The repository also has a quality command called pnpm quality:gate. It runs lint, type checking, unit tests, the production build, and playwright end-to-end tests. That command protects the Mission Control codebase itself. The Aegis task gate protects work moving through the product. They solve related problems, but they are not the same feature and should not be presented as one. The current repository gives you acceptance criteria, review records, failure notes, and a server-enforced completion gate. The full operating pattern needs more. Capture machine-readable test, diff, artifact, and browser receipts. Bind them to the review. Keep the reviewer separate from the worker when the risk justifies it. Preserve failure notes for retries. Do not claim a complete evidence pipeline until the runtime adapters produce those receipts. The project is open source and MIT licensed. The repository includes the dashboard, REST API, CLI, MCP server, task review flow, and the Aegis completion gate you saw here. The GitHub link is in the description. Builders working on production agent systems can find more tested operating patterns through the newsletter at nyk.dev. Build fast, but make done mean something.